Hello, everybody, and welcome to a review of Lost Skies. I wanted to take a minute to just kind of talk about this game because as of right now, I have about 68.5 hours of game time in this already because I've been playing it obsessively since I got it last week sometime, and yeah, I've been doing a lot. But I wanted to take some time to talk about what the game is, why it's fun, some of the early access, or some of the issues that it has that I'm hoping early access can like flesh out and make it better. I want to give you a takeaway of the game and then some parting thoughts for like summing up kind of how I feel about the game as a whole. So, first and foremost, what is this game? Well, it's basically, if you played the game Raft back in the day, I don't say back in the day, it's not that long ago. If you played Raft, it's basically like Raft in the skies. You're exploring lost islands, but these are floating in the sky instead of in an endless ocean. And you come across these islands, and you're basically just trying to figure out the story, the history of what happened to the world as it exists today, because now it's this big floating nothingness most of everywhere. You usually have to solve a bunch of puzzles to acquire data discs that allow you to level up your character. But the cool thing about this game is that you're able to craft your own skyship, and that's my skyship over there. We'll go take a look at that here in a minute. It's really great because you're able to make the skyship however you would like it to be. And rather than being forced into certain molds, you're basically able to construct the ship in whatever shape within limits. You're able to construct it in whatever shape that you want. But the point of the game is you're trying to discover the lost history of the world, figure out why it was broken, and kind of work your way towards, as you can see, I still have yet to have killed the main boss because I still have a lot of work left to do. But you're, at least as far as what the early access is available right now, you're basically just trying to build up your ship to the point where you're able to fight the only herald that's in the game, which is right now the biggest monster you're able to fight. So why is this game fun? Well, as you can see, it's very beautiful and it's very interesting because it's a cool take on, you know, going around to the different landscapes and stuff, and, you know, instead of it just being regular world where you walk around on a globe, it's a floating world where you move between islands and fly your skyship around. The music in this game is very nice and pretty in most of the places. Sometimes it can be pretty haunting, which gives you the really nice ambiance as you're moving through the skies, and the music in the game gets kind of like, you know, kind of almost creepy a little bit, but it's really nice. The movement in the game is pretty fluid and satisfying for the most part. You know, you're able to kind of run around and do all the stuff you're supposed to be able to do. I did get the gliding suit here, but yeah. The biggest thing that makes this game kind of fun to do is a grappling hook, and as you can see, we're able to kind of click that around and grab onto things, and you can pull yourself up. Let's see here. You can pull yourself up if you want to, but the biggest thing that's going to really help you out, if I don't correct, I still haven't figured out the wingsuit yet. The biggest thing that's going to help you is I spend a lot of my time just kind of running around and using the yank shot on this to kind of just fling myself around and cover ground very quickly. If you do it right and you don't yank too hard for too long, you can generally keep your stamina bar, which you can see at the bottom. You can generally keep it pretty full and cover quite a lot of distance. As I said, crafting your ship is super addicting. I have spent a lot of time, even on a simple ship like this, just going around and messing around with the little details and trying to get it to look exactly the way I want it to, have all the functionality exactly the way I want it to, just the various details of paying attention to things like, you know, where you place your wings, where you place your engines, how many engines in different control surfaces can you have, because your ship, we're going to talk about that in a second. Your ship has a limited amount of energy, and a lot of the things that you do, a lot of the things that you add to your ship take up energy and take up weight. I haven't gotten anywhere close to my max weight, but I've used up most of my energy because I have a lot of things in here that use energy, including these big weapons, these big cannons that I put on here. But you can spend, I've spent a lot of hours, you know, because this isn't the first version of the ship that I've had. I've spent a lot of hours putting various versions of different ships together, just trying to figure out what I like the best. And this is what I've gotten to so far. But that's part of the fun. If you like the crafting process, if you like the building process, like I spent countless hours in Raft building this really big, ridiculous cruise liner looking ship. because, you know, I enjoy building things and building something like that, customizing it, making it look exactly the way I want it, and this kind of gets you to the same place. Unfortunately, it does have some limitations. It is limited to a grid style system, so when you do this, you basically have these rectangular boxes, and you start out with 3 in the middle, and then you can just add them. You can add them onto the sides of that and then reshape them as a square. So there's no curved surfaces except for the pieces that you can add that have a curved surfaces. The actual structural pieces are all going to be square or rectangular or triangular or whatever. It's going to be flat surfaces. So that does limit your ability to craft somewhat. But even still, I think, you know, you're able to make something that looks pretty cool and make it your own. And I've seen some pretty interesting pictures of people who use sails and stuff like that to really make it look really nice. And they clearly put a lot of time and effort into doing that. Like I said, the grappling hook itself is pretty fun to use. If you can get really good at it, you can fling yourself around like Spider-Man almost, because, you know, I can do like that and then do like that. And then because you can fling yourself to the ground, you basically get like invulnerability for a minute while you're flinging yourself. So if you fall and you're paying enough attention, you can just look at the ground, fling, and pull yourself, and you won't take any damage. So that's really nice. It has some issues. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the last couple of things I want to talk about as to why the game is fun is the fact that the areas, for the most part, are really well designed. I never get to a place where I'm walking through a zone and I'm like, what the hell is this? Why is this here like this? This doesn't make any sense. Everything seems to kind of have a purpose, or at least is just very nice to look at, and that's very nice. It's also nothing more heart-pounding when you're trying to go through and do one of the many puzzles that are in the game to, you know, acquire the discs or get a bunch of cool gear or whatever it is that you're trying to find. Nothing more heart-pounding than hearing that beep beep when an automated turret pops out of the wall and is getting ready to shoot you, and you don't have anywhere to run, so you're having to go, oh my god, 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 oh my god. There are many instances of surprise turrets that I didn't expect, and all of a sudden you're having to freak out and try to get that. And the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the why is it fun part is just the fact that the crafting system all by itself is just super satisfying, and you know, I don't want to say it's intuitive, because it took me a while before I finally figured out how the crafting system works, because there's no tutorial or anything, so you just kind of have to figure it out as you go. But once, we're going to talk about that, like I said, we're going to talk about it in a second. Once you get the research desk, you're able to basically hop into here, and you can learn schematics that you pick up off the ground, right? And then once you learn the schematic, you can upgrade them. The way this is laid out made it seem as if you needed a certain amount of each of these, because when you have these in your inventory, it starts showing numbers, and using previous crafting systems, these seemed like requirements and not, oh, I can just click on one and use them. But these are actually things that you'll pick up off the ground as you're exploring and all of that. And basically, they have it set up so you can pick the item that you want to upgrade, right? And then you click on one of these things that you've picked up, and each one of these gives you a certain number of points to level it up. A little bit of a tutorial or something like that would make that a little bit easier. It might be in here somewhere with the tutorials, but the tutorials don't do a really good job of... I'm not a fan of tutorials that require you to stop what you're doing and then read something for a long time. I would prefer a tutorial that walks you through the process, because it doesn't break your immersion when you're trying to do that. So, but anyways, regardless, it took me a while to figure out the crafting system, but now that I know how it works, it's actually super satisfying. I don't see any reason for it to change. So, some of the things that I want to talk about as far as things that need to be fixed or adjusted, or just things that would make quality of life a little bit better. Grabbing onto walls needs to be a keybind. It needs to not be something that's automatic just because you jumped or because you walked over to something. More than once, I've walked over and accidentally walked over one of these. And then the other thing is that when you jump onto this, well, this is probably not a good place to do that. Let me find another place to go. When you go over towards a thing and you jump at it, it automatically, I didn't press a button to do that. Now, in theory, you might want that. In theory, a lot of times that's fine. You know, you jump and you just want to grab it. a lot of people may not want to have to press a separate button, but the issue is that if I'm standing here and I'm walking through a tunnel or something like that, and all of a sudden I hear a turret behind me, I want to be able to jump, and then, oh crap, it grabbed on the wall. Oh crap, now it's going that way. I want to go that way, but I grabbed this wall, and now there's no way for me to get off the wall, and oh my god, I'm stuck here, and you get shot to death because you can't, because it automatically grabs the wall instead of. Even right now, because I'm trying to talk and I'm not super focused on it, you have to press the C key to get it to let go. And when you're spazzing out and your attention isn't focused solely on that, and you're trying to run away from a turret or something like that, you know, I want to be able to jump around and kind of dodge the bullets. And if you're too close to a wall, oh, grabbed onto the wall. So I would really like it if they gave the option, at least, to make it so that you had to press a button. I would much rather press the E key or something to make it to where I grab onto the wall there, because when you're spazzing out trying to run away from an enemy or a turret and it just stops you and grabs you onto a wall like that, I've died multiple times because of that. So making that a toggleable thing where you press a keybind or something to make it so that I don't accidentally grab onto walls when I don't want to would be really nice. The hook and yank feature, where you hook onto something and you press the F key to yank yourself forward, this is a great system to travel around because I can hook and yank. Hook and yank. Hook and yank, right? It's very nice, but I would much rather have it so that if I press the F key, because right now what it does is it just does a quick hook, like it just does a quick, like if I could just double tap it. Because I can accomplish the same thing if I press the F key. It hits it and brings it right back instead of yanking me forward. I would like it if pressing F did this automatically without having to press a second keybind, because pressing two keys back to back is a little bit awkward, and if you don't time it right, it really screws you up. I would much rather it just press the F key and it yanks me forward like that. Because if I just need to, I find myself, I don't even use the F key to hit the various things, because there's like buttons that you need to like hit from a far distance. I can just double tap the hook key and it does the same thing. That will trigger a button if I do it like that. So I'd much rather have the F key be yank me forward without having to, you know, hook first. The button just hooks and yanks you at the same time, and then, you know, I'd like it if the same key releases too. So like I press F and then I hit F again to let it go. That way I'm only using the hook button when I want to do something, and I'm not going to be using the yanking feature, because you can reel yourself in and reel yourself down, right? I would much rather it be F yanks and lets go, the other button hooks and lets go, and then allows you to manually control, you know, fine-tuning kind of stuff. That's the way I would really like that to go. As I said, I do have the wing glider, but I find myself not really being that much of a fan of it, because the way that it works just doesn't provide a lot of opportunities for you to really use it. Because I can hop here like this, and yeah, we're able to cover a fair bit of distance doing this, but the issue that it has is that if you hit anything, this is part of the stuff I'm talking about. If you hit anything, it disables it. And with the way that this disables, it flings you around like a ragdoll and you completely lose control of everything. But the other thing is just the fact that because you can't, it's not like the regular makeshift glider where it's more like a parachute or like a little hang glider kind of thing. I could use that, and I have far more utility with that, because if I'm up in a high space and I just need to go down, sometimes you just want to be able to just use your glider to go down instead of having to do that. I found very few instances where the wing glider actually helps me very much, and because I'm attuned to the idea of pressing the spacebar to deploy the hang glider, what happens a lot is I'll press the hang glider, and then because I'm already running forward, it nosedives you into the ground, and I've died a couple of times that way because I forget that. So there needs to be some kind of a fix to that. And then also just, you know, if they really want to make it a lot more of something that's a utility, make it so that we can use the hook shot or the grappling thing to actually keep ourselves moving forward, right? I don't want to have to disable the hang glider to do that. Let me grab onto it and then use the soft pull feature to, like, you know, pull me forward while the wings are out to give myself some altitude, something like that. So I think a little bit of refinement in having the grappling hook and the wing gliders work a little bit better together would make it so that it would make that a far more useful tool. Because you could theoretically get it to where if you can fly over treetops and stay over the treetops, kind of like gliding around and using your hook to keep your momentum up. So let's see, the jumping should be, oh yeah, jumping should only be for the, jumping should only be for just jumping. It should not be the thing that we use to quickly move up and down the surface. Because right now I'm pressing the space bar, which is my jump key, and that's what's making me move quickly up and down and left and right, right? You can do it on the rock face too. Shift is the move fast key. That's the ability to move fast on a surface should also be something that you can either bind or just bind it to the shift key. Because I don't want to jump. I want the jump key when I press the jump key to just jump me away from the wall, and I would like to be able to jump off the wall in a direction. Like if I want to jump off the wall over there, I want to be able to hold the right key and hit the jump, and it jumps me off at an angle, right? That's the way that should work. So shift key to move quickly on a surface to do this instead of the space bar, and then the jump key in conjunction with whatever direction you're holding jumps you off the surface that you're on in a direction that you want to go. That's the way that should work. And again, my natural desire is to press the space bar to try to parachute down, but the wing glider doesn't let you do that. Ship controls. All right, let's talk about ship controls, because that's something that I have been struggling with. I don't want to say struggling with. It's something that's a minor annoyance that I would like to see fixed, because there we go again. I didn't time it right, so it screwed me up. Ship controls in this game are done from the helm, and the issue that I have is that if you want to look around, you can't, because the mouse by default controls your pitch and roll, right? You have to hold down the Alt key, and then you can look around. I'm not a fan of this way of doing it, because I want to be able to freely look around and control the ship while I'm doing it. And the way that this is set up right now forces you to choose you're either controlling or you're looking around. And I don't really, that's not natural. You wouldn't do that in real life. And it's also just very limiting and it's awkward. So what I would like for it to do is to have key bindable, because you basically, you hold this, what I'm doing right now with the elevation and the throttle, that's all with the W, that's the W and the S keys, and then the rudder, and the rudder is the A and the D keys, right? I would rather the pitch and the roll also have keys assigned to them. So maybe Q and E could be the roll, and then R and F could be the pitch, and then the mouse is only for looking around. The mouse will always look around whenever you're doing whatever it is you're doing. That way, if I need to look over at something and I'm trying to like fine-tune control my ship, I can also adjust the controls while I'm looking off to the left, and not have to constantly do that. Make a change, then look over, then have to go back over here, make another change, and then look. Like, I don't really want to have to do that. I want to be able to look at what I'm supposed to be looking at and make the changes as I'm doing that. And I would really like that to be a thing that changes. Also, you can cycle between the various different weapons that you have on your ship, which is really nice, because I have this cannon up here in the front, which allows me to just instantly look over here and kind of get a front view. Making it to where we can control the ship from this position as well would make that even better, because then I could be right up here in the front and get as close as I can to the island and be controlling it while I'm doing it, instead of having to constantly switch back and make an adjustment. Constantly switch back and make an adjustment. It's really frustrating to have to constantly switch back. I want to be able to just go to a viewpoint and do that. It would also be nice if you could make this view here a toggle instead, because once I let go of the mouse button, it comes back here, which, that's not the end of the world, but it would be nice if I didn't have to hold the mouse button down to do this. Just a personal preference kind of thing. I would also like it if there was an option in the settings that allowed you to toggle between auto-centering the controls instead of having to hold a key down to center everything. Because when you're doing fine-tuned stuff really close to objects and things like that, you don't want to have to figure out recentering the controls. Sometimes you want to be able to just kind of tap, and the ship turns a little bit. Like, you want to be able to just kind of tap it, and just get tiny little movements out of it. It's very difficult to do when the controls don't recenter on their own. But there are times where you want to leave it kind of turned off to the left while maybe it's turning and you're walking around in your ship, or you're wanting to, like, when you're traveling in between islands and hold on. when you're traveling in between islands and you're trying to gain some elevation, being able to leave the elevation up, being able to leave the thing going up is really nice to be able to do that. So I don't want the option taken away. I would like to add an option to make it so that you can set it to recenter when you're trying to do fine-tune controls, and then when you're on a long trip between islands, you switch back to the stay where I put you mode, and it kind of keeps going that way. Let's see. Mouse needs a return to center. Ship crafting. I have spent so much time in this game jumping back down to the freaking ground here, because when you disassemble something on your ship, instead of the material going back in your inventory, it just respawns where the item was. And then if you're not quick enough to grab it before it falls down here to the ground, and you have to come down here to get it. I have had to come down to the ground so many times because they just need to make it to where the items, when they despawn from disassembling them, the items go back into your inventory, or make it so that the shipyard here has its own inventory that items from here spawn into. Something to make it so I don't have to go down and constantly retrieve things that fell because I either couldn't grab it or I was close to something like a turret here. Because if I hit the turret here, but I disassemble something right here and I'm close enough to hit the turret, then what ends up happening is while I'm trying to spam the E key to grab whatever falls, I hop into the turret and then the stuff still falls anyway. So it's a really annoying system to have things spawn where the item is. Have it spawn in my inventory or another inventory or something like that, just to make that much less annoying to deal with. Replacing ship materials should return those whatever the original material was, back to your inventory or something like that. Or respawn it. But I would rather go back to your inventory, because the way it works right now is if I replace this panel here with a different material, the same thing but a different material, I lose the material that was there. Now I can disassemble it and it will give me my material back, and then I can replace it, but I'd rather not have to go through that extra step. Just make it so that when I do a replacement, it swaps the materials out in my inventory and gives me my material back. I'd like to have that be something that should happen. Your ship should not kill you if you clip in it. Multiple times I've had game-breaking problems where I had my spawn point here too close to something like the stairs here or a bulkhead or something, and because it clips me into something and that insta kills you, what happens is you get this endless cycle of death where you respawn into something, it kills you, you respawn something, it kills you, and there's no way to get back to your spawn point because of the fact that instead of it just ejecting you back into a free space here, it just kills you instead. I think they should make it so that if it's your ship, rather than clipping through something killing you, it ejects you, and that's it. That's the way that should work. That way you don't run into this endless cycle of that happening. You can Alt F4 out of the game, which supposedly will bring you back to when the last time it was saved, which might save your problem, but I shouldn't have to do that. It should just auto-clip me out of it. That's the way that should work. Or just make it so that your spawn point can't be where it might kill you. Something. Like make the you can't build here thing happen if I'm putting it somewhere that would potentially kill me. Let's see. Game desperately needs a map. Oh my god, the game needs a map so bad. I do have hold on, let me do this. I do have this in-game map that I've been out-of-game map that I've been using, which is extremely helpful. It made me realize just how many islands there are in the game, and I'm about halfway through all of these at this point. But this is a really nice thing to have, and it does give you a bunch of information about, how many data banks it has, which are the skill points that you're going to be able to get out of it, the different materials you can get. I don't know that the in-game map needs to give you all of that information, but it would be nice if they had an in-game map that either had a fog on it, and then as you explore it uncovers, or maybe even better when you visit an ark, which is a little starting area that you start in. When you visit an ark on a different island, maybe that uncovers a bunch of different islands on your map and maybe gives you information, because it would also be nice if it told us how many data banks are on each island and how many we've acquired, because I didn't find this map until I had already explored a bunch of different islands, and I have no idea how many of the data points I got on this one and this one and this one. Like, there's a whole bunch of them where I'm not sure how many I got on each of the island because I wasn't keeping track. So having an in-game system that allows you to figure out, that gives you a list of each island that you've been to and how many of the data points you got out of that That would be really nice. Let's see. So those are really kind of the big things I'd like to see changed as far as, you know, quality of life, comfort, bugs, things like that. But overall, the thing I want you to take away from this review is that you should absolutely 100% definitely check out this game. It is super addicting. If you are the kind of person who likes A, crafting, B, exploring, C, I'm not a big fan of puzzles, and some of the puzzles in this game are a little bit more obnoxious than I really want to deal with. But for the most part, they're relatively simple and, you know, mentally stimulating. But if you like puzzles, if you like crafting your own ship, if you like adventure and exploration and seeing cool stuff, this game is absolutely for you. And this map right here that I just showed you, this map right here, this is just the first area. This is just the first nation of, from what I'm assuming, is a bunch of different nations that we can go and explore once they continue with the early access. If the rest of the countries and the nations or whatever that we're going to go explore are as in-depth and awesome as this, I don't know. It's going to be hard to find another game that tops this one as far as what you get out of it, especially for the price that they're asking for the early access part. I mean, man, this is just a really amazing, fun game so far. It has, like a lot of games, it has its issues, and you know, I'm hoping that the devs will, you know, maybe come across this video somehow and implement some of those changes. But yeah, that's how I feel about us. You should absolutely check out this game, play it, give it some time, because it did take me a little bit to get into it. But once you start getting into it, you get a little comfortable with the hook shot and all that stuff, and you figure out how to put your ships together and everything. It's a lot of fun. And I still have another, I have almost 70 hours in, and I'm only like halfway through what's available so far. I still got a long way to go. So, parting thoughts. Will this game hit it big? Probably not. Like Raft, it's probably never going to break out of its niche because it's designed for a certain kind of person. And when you design your games for a certain kind of person, there's a limited audience for that. I think that unlike Minecraft, where you can endlessly build everything and change everything, the only thing you can build in this game is your ship, and there is a very limited quantity of blocks that you can do for now. I have to imagine that's probably going to increase as, you know, future major additions are made, but as of now, you can only put 20 rectangular squares in here. That drastically, that severely limits the size of the ship, and unlike Raft, where you can basically build pretty much as big as you want, this is about as big as you're ever going to get. I have all 20 blocks in here. I've arranged it in a certain way. You could make it a little bit more of a rectangle or whatever, but this is about as big as it's going to get for now. Now, that's fine, because this is about as big as I'd want it to be, trying to get close to some of these islands with the way that things work. Maybe later on, if they make bigger ships, if they make it to where you can make bigger ships, if they give you the ability to create like a little dinghy or something like that, that's able to like dock with a bigger ship, that would mitigate that problem. But this is about as big as I'd want to navigate close to an island anyway, which it's not that much of a problem. But it does limit how much customization you can do. So, you know, some people are gonna get bored with it pretty quick. That said, though, the adventure part of this game is far superior to anything Raft ever did, and it makes up for the fact that you can't customize your ship. You know, you can't make the big, massive, crazy ship yet. Maybe you will in the future, but for now, even with something like this, I've spent hours and hours crafting this, so I don't know. It's really cool. But the adventure itself is just, it's a pretty good story so far. I wouldn't say it's like epic writing or anything, but it's a pretty good story so far. And, you know, just the adventure aspect of it is just, it calls to you. It calls to you. So that's what I wanted to say about the game. There's a lot of good. And then there's a few things that should be tweaked to make things a little bit better. But outside of that, I highly, highly recommend this game to you. You will not, if you like this concept, you will not be disappointed. It will be money well spent. Stop what you're doing and go buy this game right now. So thanks for watching. Be sure to click the like button, subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Join as a member for early access to videos, among other perks, or you can just leave YouTube's version of a tip with the thanks button. Also have PayPal and Patreon links for those of you who prefer that, because some people like to go outside of YouTube to support channels. So again, thanks for watching. Be sure to come back for the next video, and I'll see you then.